Yo, what up Super Squad? It's Jordan here from Zero to Hero Muscle. Now check it out, bulking up and building muscle. The steps needed to be taken in order to transform from skinny to buff are very, very simple. What do you have to do? All you have to do is eat more and train more, right? Well, if that's all you have to do, why is it that when so many guys try to bulk up, they don't get muscular, they get fat? Why are guys getting fat? Well, it's because tons of guys are being fed this stream of complete BS from mainstream fitness telling you that you have to eat tons and tons of food, that you have to go on these ridiculous and stupid bulking and cutting cycles to get big, and all this nonsense that doesn't end up helping them get muscular. All it does is make them end up getting fat. And you should never ever get fat when trying to bulk up and build muscle. If anyone tries to tell you that, no man, it's okay, getting fat is part of the process. No, getting fat is not part of the process. It should never be part of the process. If someone tells you that, run as fast as you can in the opposite direction, because that person has no idea what they're talking about. If you're bulking up and trying to get muscular, you should never ever get fat. If you're getting fat, you're doing it wrong. So in order to help you do it right, I'm gonna share with you my 5 super simple tips for how to bulk up without getting fat. So let's get right into it. All right, how to bulk up without getting fat. Tip number 1, take it slow. You've gotta realize that building muscle takes time. It doesn't happen overnight. All this nonsense you've heard about, oh, go on this program, build 30 pounds of muscle in 2 months, 1 month. That's all complete BS. And it sounds way too good to be true. And if something sounds too good to be true, then it is. Building muscle doesn't happen overnight. You've really got to take things slow. You've got to be patient, be persistent, and be consistent in order to see these results. Because if you're impatient and you don't respect the process, you're going to gain weight, yes, but that weight is going to be fat. Hardly any of it is going to be muscle. I'd be surprised if any of it was muscle. It'd probably all be fat. Remember, it's very, very easy to gain weight. It's very, very hard to build muscle because it takes time. So slow it down. You shouldn't be aiming to gain 10 pounds a week or 10 pounds a month. That's way too much. In order to bulk up without getting fat, you want to aim closer to just 1 pound per month. And I know it doesn't sound like a lot, but trust me, 1 pound of muscle will make a huge difference in your physique. 1 pound of muscle is a lot. And if you're out there gaining weight too fast, say around 10 pounds per month, that way it's not going to be muscle. It's going to be fat, and that too will have a tremendous impact on the appearance of your physique. It's not going to look good. So take your foot off the gas a little bit and start cruising at a good pace. Take it slow. Be patient, be persistent, and be consistent with going at a nice, slow, and steady pace, and you'll be able to achieve an impressive lean muscular bulk. How to bulk up without getting fat. Tip number 2. Just eat enough. Look for that minimum effective dose it takes for you in order to gain just a little bit of weight every single week. Again, you shouldn't be gaining all that much. When it comes down to it, it really doesn't take all that much food in order to gain weight and build muscle. This is a huge problem I see a lot of skinny guys, hard gainers, and ectomorphs struggle with, because due to those attributes that we have of being skinny, being a hard gainer, and being an ectomorph, we think that we have to completely stuff our faces in order to gain weight. But the only thing you're achieving by doing that is overeating. And when you're overeating, you're not going to be gaining muscle, you're going to be gaining fat. And again, getting fat is something that should never ever happen during this process. There's a training video already up on the channel covering this topic where I go into full and complete detail about how many calories you should be eating and how many macronutrients you should be eating on a daily basis to ensure that you are making the best gains possible. Muscle gains, not fat gains. So if you missed that video, make sure you check that out immediately. I'll put a link in the description box. Now, to touch on that video, the general recommendation I gave in order to gain weight and start bulking up is a caloric surplus of 500 calories, which theoretically would gain you about 1 pound per week, which is great, especially if you're a hard gainer. But if you wanted to make your bulk a little bit leaner and make the chances of gaining fat a little bit less, then you might want to scale back that caloric surplus of a couple hundred calories, maybe down to 200 or 300, where instead of gaining 1 pound per week, you're closer to gaining 1 pound per month, which is really going to lessen the likelihood of gaining fat and make sure that your gains are strictly pure muscle. Again, it's all about finding that minimum effective dose for yourself where you're doing just enough in order to see results. That's all you have to do, is just enough, because when you do too much, you get fat. How to bulk up without getting fat, tip number 3. Train, and specifically train properly, which means do not be an ego lifter. This is something I stress all the time because too many guys are concerned with pushing heavier and heavier weight, which is not what triggers muscle growth. What triggers muscle growth is getting quality stretches and quality contractions out of your muscles. And by going too heavy and being an ego lifter, you're unable to achieve those maximum quality stretches and maximum quality contractions. As I always say, it's not about how much you lift, it's about how you lift. And when it comes to bulking up and trying to stay as lean as possible without gaining any fat, you really have to make sure you are lifting and training properly, which means while you're training, you're focusing on your mind-muscle connection, connecting yourself to the muscles you're targeting. You're performing a full range of motion of every single exercise so that you can get those deep stretches and those deep contractions of your muscles that are going to trigger muscle growth. You want to make sure you're not cheating your reps. You want to make sure that you're performing an entire set without giving up too early in that set. Train to failure. You want to make sure you're keeping your training intensity high and your training time low. Because again, it's all about just achieving that minimum effective dose it takes in order to see results. Achieving that minimum effective dose is all you need in order to trigger muscle growth. Do too much, you'll gain too much. So leave your ego at the door. It's not going to help you during your training. You're not training to work your ego, you're training to work your muscles. How to bulk up without getting fat, tip number 4, track. Track everything. Track your intake, track your training, and track your progress. If you don't track any of these things, you have no idea how much you're eating. More often than not, you're going to be overeating and eating too much, which is going to cause you to get fat. Make sure that you're getting stronger in your lifts, that you're progressing in your training, because muscle is a byproduct of strength. And of course, make sure you're tracking your progress with the scale. Make sure you're not gaining too much weight too fast. Track your progress with progress pictures. Take weekly progress pictures to make sure those weight gains you're seeing on the scale are actually muscle gains and not fat gains. So many guys out there don't take the necessary time to track these very important things. And that's why so many of those guys end up getting fat. They're not tracking their intake, so they're overeating. They're not tracking their training to ensure they're effectively stimulating and triggering muscle growth. And they're not tracking their progress efficiently to ensure the gains they're making are muscle gains and not fat gains. So it's very important that you track all of these things. And finally, how to bulk up without getting fat, tip number 5, accountability. You have to hold yourself accountable to taking every single one of these steps every single day. Because if you're not taking these steps, you're not going to see the progress that you want. Hold yourself accountable to respecting the process and taking the necessary steps that are going to take you to the goal you want to achieve. Too many guys use bulking up as an excuse to excuse them from all of these steps. They take the lazy man's path. They don't take it slow because they're way too impatient. They don't eat just enough. They overeat and completely stuff their faces silly. They're completely obsessed with lifting heavier and heavier weight when they train, and they don't enforce the discipline to track their progress. And what does all this laziness amount to? Getting fat. If you're lazy, you're going to get fat. Lazy guys get fat. Dedicated, disciplined guys who have the desire to do this right get lean and muscular. And that's the type of self-discipline you need to start instilling in yourself in order to bulk up without getting fat. You've got to take all 5 of these steps in order to do it. And these 5 steps are very, very simple. You just can't be lazy about it. All you have to do is put in the work and you will see the results. And that's it, guys. Those are my 5 super simple steps for how to bulk up without getting fat. Make sure you take it slow and respect the process. Make sure you eat just enough so that you're gaining strictly muscle and not gaining fat. Make sure you train properly so that you're stimulating your muscles properly to trigger muscle growth. Make sure you're tracking your progress to make sure you're making the right kind of gains. And finally, hold yourself accountable to doing all these things. And if you do all that, you will be able to bulk up without getting fat, okay? All you have to do is be patient, be persistent, and be consistent. That's all you have to do. So do it, okay? Now, as always, if you enjoyed this free training video, make sure you flex that like button, leave some comments below, and if you haven't already, subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any future valuable content. Until next time, I expect you to be buffed out and not fluffed out, okay? I'll see you then.
If you enjoyed what you just learned in this free secret training video, make sure you join my priority waitlist for my full training course, Zero to Hero, the muscle building blueprint for skinny guys, where you'll learn my 20 skinny killing muscle building secrets for how to fully transform yourself from an average, pathetic zero into a ripped, aesthetic superhero. All you need to do is click the link on your screen, enter your name and your email, and you'll be all set for the next release date. It literally takes just a few seconds. So go ahead and do that right now before we run out of spaces, and I will see you in the next training video.